Welcome everybody, how are you doing? Today I have another chess opening tutorial for you guys, and we will look at the Alekhine opening named after the 4th world champion Alekhine. And what is this about? Well, first of all, it's brought to you by, okay, I'm not going to read out his name, but he says, "Hey Niclas, I would like it if you could do a video on the Alekhine or just tell us your thoughts about it." And that's what we are about to do. So the Alekhine arises after e4 and now knight to f6. Already here we talk of the Alekhine. And what is this all about? Black is attacking the pawn on e4 and he is okay with his knight moving a few times. On the other hand, he wants to provoke white to push his pawn forward, which he usually does here. There's certainly other moves, but they don't make that much sense. e5 is definitely the best move here. And then what he wants to do is he wants to attack this pawn and open up the position this way. And at first this might look very silly, why would you do that? But actually it has definitely some reasoning to it and it's not that bad. It's not a bad opening, I can't say that. It's not that easy for white to prove an advantage here, even though it looks peculiar. So here white usually goes c4 or d4. If he starts with c4, well, it does not really make a big difference, even though I noticed that in the database this move has been played quite a few times, but on a top level you wouldn't see that because it gives black the square on d5, an outpost for the knight because no pawn can attack the knight anymore, and I don't think that makes that much sense. So usually people play, well, after c4 they play d4, so let's transpose it right now. So this would be the same thing here, right? And now we would have this position. This is one way to play, we'll just see some other ways in a moment. And now we don't, as white, we don't want black to take on e5. I believe there's also a move like f4 here, which is quite aggressive, but the main move is e takes d6, and this is the move I would like to talk about a little bit. Here black has a fundamental choice. He can take with the c-pawn or go for a symmetrical pawn structure with e takes d6. Let's begin with c takes d6, which is the rarer move of the two. And usually what happens here is that play develops in these ways. Castle, b3, and now black goes for e5. If he goes knight c6, then white can push d5, knight e5 and bishop e2, keep developing his pieces, and I think white enjoys a little bit of an edge here due to his better space, due to his higher space amount. He has the space advantage, that's what I'm trying to say. And after e5, what people do here usually is they go into this endgame, which is a bit more comfortable for white, but I think objectively it's probably okay for black, even though this looks a little bit threatening right now for black with all the white pieces coming out. But black can often make use of the square on d4, and I think if one analyzes this deeply enough, then one can find equality here for black, even though, well, you have to be okay with maybe fighting for a draw for a long time and not really getting many chances to play for win yourself. Of course, white also has other ways to play against this, but this is considered to be the most critical. Let's come back to this position, and what happens if black takes with the e-pawn. Now, usually white plays knight c3, bishop e7, bishop d3, knight c6, and here white has a choice. He can develop the knight to f3 or e2, but it makes more sense to go to e2 so that bishop g4 could be answered with f3. So here black goes castle, castle, bishop f6, bishop e3. This is one sample line, and white has developed all these pieces. Black often has a problem with this bishop. He can play bishop g4, but even then white could play f3, knight g3, something along these lines, and this could be advantageous for white. Also, in the right moment, white might push d5. Otherwise, black might push d5, which is a common idea, something like this, d5, c5, and then either retreat, which wouldn't be possible here, or play knight c4. Here, probably not a good idea because white can take and play d5, something along these lines, but this is also something to consider for sure. Also black could play maybe something like this, knight b4, go after this bishop and then get the bishop and then try something like c6, d5, something along these lines. And black's position is very solid. This is, I think, what Alekhine players like about this kind of line, is that they're very solid for now. The structure is symmetrical. Yes, white has more space, and this is also his advantage. Black has to find squares for his pieces, but on the other hand, there are no weaknesses in the black position. So this is attractive for black players, I believe. So this is what I want to say about the line of c4. White has other ways to play as well though. There was one idea I often played when I was a little bit younger, is to play with bishop c4. This is more of a trick variation or to surprise the opponent. The point is here that after d takes e5, white goes queen h5, threatening to take, and after e6 only now takes back on e5. And we have this kind of structure, which in some cases, if black's not really careful, there can be some attacking chance for white. And I think that in this line, there was also this famous game between Nigel Short and Jan Timman, where Nigel Short walked up with his king all the way to h6 from g1. Maybe you know what I mean. But it's just a trick variation and shouldn't pose that many problems to black. The other big main line besides c4 and taking on d6 is to play with knight f3. And here black has many choices available. The main move is bishop g4. Black can also take on e5. Here we see the point between behind developing the knight. White can take back with the knight. And now black would play with c6 and maybe with g6. He shouldn't go knight d7. This has been refuted pretty much because white can sacrifice the knight on f7 and get a strong attack, because the king has to come out like this, and this would be not a good idea for black. And after c6, just to get a taste, what kind of position can we expect here? This reminds us a lot of the Scandinavian or also the open Caro-Kann variation. Same kind of structure, or also Rubinstein variation, same kind of structure. White has a little bit more space. He can follow with c4, develop his pieces, but ultimately black's position is without weaknesses, and he will try to later, with the right timing, attack the white pawns with c5, or in some rare cases with e5, but usually the break will be with c5, and white tries to get ready for that and be able to respond to that. In this position, black can also choose a different way of playing. He can go with g6, when usually play develops in the following way. Bishop g7, and now white can play knight g5, forcing a decision here with the pawn on f7. Castle would not be a good idea due to e6, which is, by the way, a motive to remember. So black would either go d5 here or e6. And after e6, I saw in the database there were some games queen f3, queen e7, and even to sacrifice a pawn here with knight e4, trying to get bishop g5 in, and this can get quite sharp, obviously. So completely different kind of position you could expect here. Of course, those are not the only ways to play for both sides, but this is one of the main lines. Lastly, the main move in this position is to just develop the bishop to g2. And here the game can develop in the following way: c4, knight b6, knight c3, castle, bishop e3. And we see we still have this tension between the pawns. White is always ready to take with the e5 pawn or to take with the d pawn, but if you take with the d pawn, you usually want to keep the queens on the board, because with the queens you have much better attacking chances and making use of this pawn on the queen side, on the king side, which is giving you space and squares for your pieces to get an attack going. So once again, as we saw in many of the variations today, solid position for black, not a lot of weaknesses, he can develop his pieces. On the other hand, white has more space. And I think this really sums it up quite well. In pretty much all the lines, white has more space. Already in the second move, as black is provoking this e5 move, white is gaining some more space and he usually keeps it. On the other hand, black has no weaknesses usually and has a solid position and tries to equalize then. I hope this gives you a good overview of what you can expect with the Alekhine. I would say once again, if you want to play this opening, you don't need to know that much to play it with the black pieces. And it can be a quite good surprise weapon because usually white players, I should say, excuse me, don't spend that much time on preparing against this variation as it is rather rare. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to subscribe for more videos like this one and leave a like. I would appreciate it. So see you guys next time. Bye bye.